OZD1, how's it going? Lil Davis and Andy K. How you guys doing? So yeah, if you guys didn't check the title of today's video, going to be checking out a new pack that I've just got called the Mute Productions Vital Essentials for Psytrance, something like that. The link is going to be in the description. Let me check here. Mute Productions Vital Psytrance Volume 1, that's the one. So I've already got like a full track here. There's just a couple of kind of things that I want to add. I want to add a bit of direction. Jorge, yes, we are live. I kind of want to add a few like sound effects type of things, maybe a new lead here. So I've already kind of written down a couple of pointers in my marker channel of things that I want to look at. I also want to recreate like a transition between these two sections, like a breakdown kind of thing. So it often helps like before getting into a section or before getting into like a production. Vital is huge. Do you mean huge in hype or huge in the GUI? I can make it a bit smaller if you need. So anyway, where was I? Before getting into a production session, it often helps to have a couple of pointers for what you kind of want to do, because I find that, you know, after about the first hour, if you're just faffing around and stuff, you start to lose that creative steam. And if you have a couple of pointers of things to like attend to as you're diving into the production session, often those things tend to be the most successful things in the session, is that first kind of 30 minutes of work. So it helps to have a couple of ideas of what you want to do before diving into that. I'm kind of breaking the rule now by just chatting a little bit. But anyway, I do apologize if we're getting any dropped frames. It doesn't look like too many, but I'm getting one or two. How's it going, Mzwai? How's it going, Luchko? How are you doing today? Dennis, this new album from Cosmic. Which album? Anyway, so yeah, I wanted to create like a new main lead for this part here. As you could hear, like in that kind of intro to the stream, it was kind of built up to a bit of nothingness over there. So I want to peruse through this new pack and see if we can find something that's going to fit there. I think something more like rhythmical, something like a rhythmic FM kind of thing could be really cool, I think. So yeah, let's just dive into these sounds and see what we're dealing with here. Let's maybe put in some MIDI, and then I can just cycle through a bunch of these presets over here. What should we do? Should we go with like a more rhythmical thing? I think melodies we can introduce a little bit later on. I think there's a couple of like melodic things that happen in this break anyway, so I think kind of creating that contrast where it drops back into a kind of more flatter synth sound could be pretty cool. So how do we program this? Should we go with something random, or should we program something? I think what could be cool is, let's try something like a step designer. And then we can do something like a polymetric pattern. So it's not like every 16th notes the bar re-triggers. It's kind of like irregular. That can create some pretty cool rhythms. So let's just do something like this. So this we're going to actually want to transpose and maybe do a bit higher, C3. Why does that sound out of key? Let's have a look here. C -5. So it's playing in G. Maybe this needs a MIDI modifiers here. Maybe this is like pre the MIDI inserts for some reason. That sounds good. Jorge is asking how often you use Vital on your productions. Pretty much always nowadays. I just find that it's so intuitive and it offers a couple of things that allow me to kind of expand a little bit further than Serum. Obviously, I still love Serum for what it offers, and I'm graciously awaiting Serum V2. But yeah, like as it stands, I just find that the interface is just so intuitive for the way that I work. I make patches super quickly on it, so I've been using it on almost every project. I think this kind of randomization of this cutoff over here is a little bit too random. So are you going to release any Vital preset pack? Love your content. Anna Maria, I actually do have one, and I've got another one coming soonish. So let me see if... okay, it's going to take me too long to find the video link, but I'm sure if you search my channel, you'll check. It's about maybe 2 months ago or so I released it. It was the end of November, I believe. So 3 months ago when I released it. So check the videos from around then. There should be like a walkthrough of the bank that I've released. But I'm actually almost on the brink of releasing another one. So definitely stay tuned for that. So what was I saying? The cutoff randomization, I think it's a little bit too random. Something like this main lead. I think it could be cool to go less random and more programmed. So let's actually remove that, and we can actually apply an LFO onto this macro. This is one reason why I think I'm using Vital a lot more than Serum nowadays, is that Vital allows you to modulate your macros. Whereas I'm not sure if Serum has updated that yet, but it doesn't actually allow that feature. So for example, in this case where I'm loading a preset and I like the sound of this cutoff sweep, I don't want to have to go and work out exactly what these modulations are doing and apply it to an LFO to change it, if that makes sense. I can just modulate the macro and we're done, you know. So here, let's do something maybe like 2/1. Would that be 32 steps? And then we can go sync. And then let's set this to step. And then we just draw in the steps that we want for our cutoffs. So let's just experiment here. So we could also modulate this space parameter. I think this could be really cool. Maybe like at the end of every bar or so, we could do a bit of modulation coming in of that. So let's just go flat all the way, and then maybe some here and some here. Let's just see how this goes. Okay, we're going to want to set this to sync as well, so it's synced to the project's tempo and not every re-trigger. Ignore all this modulation here. That's not actually affecting the sound. It's all on like inserts that I've actually muted on the thing because I was actually just busy playing around with some other sounds just before I went live with the stream. So that's all muted. Just that's not actually affecting the sound if you think I'm somehow cheating or anything. Schrommel, Mute Productions drops the best pack in the game once again. Yeah, I mean, like, first sound I've opened is sounding really, really awesome. Reeve, something just disappeared there. I'm pretty sure you asked the tempo. It's 145. Okay, so I want to get this kind of randomized MIDI into the MIDI of the thing. So let's just hit these two red buttons and then we can record it in. what's up, Uncle Butt? Beard game is on point today. I actually had to turn the lights off so you guys don't see how grey I'm going. I don't want to show my age here. Which is the most easiest way to do automation on external instruments on Cubase? There's so many different ways. I guess if you want to like automation, like traditional MIDI like this, then you would probably need to know the actual hardware units, like CC codes, if that makes sense. And then you can actually go in here and go more, and then you get this little like thing, and then MIDI channel, and you can choose the actual CC code, and each one would be like a different parameter on the hardware unit. For some reason, every single manufacturer decided to do different codes for different parameters. There's no standardized thing. So then you could just select that and then draw in automation for that way. Julian for President is saying, first time I catch you live. Nice to be here. Just wanted to make some Atmos sounds for my project, but I guess watching you live has higher priority now. I'm sorry to distract you from the task at hand. Luchko, I was about to say, record the stream, put a big reverb on it, and maybe even stretch it or granularize it or something. IG Jazz, how you doing today, dude? The wizard is slowly coming out. Mzwa is saying, I managed to get that croaky clicky sound in Vital using a key-tracked harmonic LFO mapped to cutoff. Awesome. Yes, you can do that very well, very easily in Vital, by freezing the LFO and key tracking it. Or actually, you don't have to freeze it. You can just set it to key track. It's also a nice way of doing like different types of FM and phase modulation and all sorts of audio rate modulation. That's not like particularly built into the plugin, if that makes sense. You can just map anything to one of those LFOs and modulate it at audio rate, and it does interesting things. Julian for President, Dash, do you prefer Vital over Faceplant now, or do you use both for certain things? It's such a difficult question. I guess that they're so similar that it kind of like where Vital lacks, Faceplant kind of makes up for that, if that makes sense. Certain things like the quantization, mod remaps, and that kind of thing. Those things I don't find in Serum. And Serum kind of was like, I used Serum and Faceplant because Faceplant was like a blank canvas that you can do anything, like granular stuff, like sample-based stuff. It's really, really vast what you can do in there. And having the like built-in effects and multi-band stuff, it's just like really incredible. So it was like my blank canvas kind of thing, whereas Serum was my quick synth thing. But now, because there's those little things that Vital has that Phaseplant doesn't, Vital is kind of more becoming my quick synth thing, if that makes any sense. Do you mean that like FME bubbly thing? This is a preset from the new Mute Productions Vital pack. The preset is FM Duxie. I presume it's based on a sound by Oxyduxie. Yeah, let's see what else this has to offer here. I'm actually just going to mute this. We can call this main lead attempt 1. Attempt exclamation mark. I'm shouting it. Main lead attempt. And then we can just make a bunch of different variations, and at the end of the day see which one suits best and go with that one. What I actually want to do though is, there's too much going on this channel. I think it's eating up CPU for no necessary reason. So I want to copy these MIDIs onto a new channel and destroy this and recreate it. Because there's just so much automation there that's completely unnecessary. It's actually confusing me. So then let's go Vital. Mute Productions. Let's see what else is here. What the hell is that source doing? Flanger. It must be a really slow flanger. That's wonky as fuck. Yo, that's the one. So it seems this has some velocity mapping, so we can try create like a groove with the velocities here. Yeah, there's something about that kind of like harmonics of that sound that's just so like nice and ringy. I think it could be cool to kind of introduce it here, but maybe we need to like render it and then chop it because there's like all this modulation going on. No, this kick is from the Camphor Audio kick pack. I believe that's made by Protonica. And then the bass is from the Lunatica pack. That being said, there's plenty of bass sounds in the Vital pack, and the one that I'm doing now, I just had a track that was like already almost made, and didn't want to recreate an entire track just for a stream. So, yep, I'm lazy. So there are plenty of bass sounds. I can go through some of them a little bit later in the stream if you are keen to hear them. But judging by the sound quality of these, I'm guessing they're pretty phenomenal. just rendering this out. Let's see if I've missed anything. If I do miss any questions, you can just at me like Reeve has done, and then it pops up on my screen in red, so it's a lot easier for me to see what's happening. Uncle Butt, did you apply a lot of automations on that Vital O2 instance, which plays until measure 880? Do you mean this mofo? It's just that kind of long sweep of the macro that does that. I think we should like mute some of these notes to kind of like play off the rhythm of that vocally thing. I think it's this. But I also think that this needs to come needs to be a bit brighter, I think, around this region, because it kind of sounds, there's like this very big difference. And I see I've actually EQ'd that out, so we can try turn that EQ node off. Yes, Uncle Butt, the movement you're talking about, that's the velocities. So that patch had like some velocity stuff happening. I just want to use this sound for everything, but I have to show you guys the other sounds. So let me just render this out. I think we could try maybe see if there's some cool like leads that we can maybe do like a melodic type of thing. Let's just render this out. That vocal sound, you can hear words. I think that's from the Lunatica pack. It was actually one of the Ana 2 presets, and I think Ana 2 does allow you to load samples, which you can like change the start points and loop points and stuff. So it's pretty cool for that kind of granular type stuff. I like how even though it's Shep's Vital patches, you really turn it into something which I instantly recognize as a glitch track. Well, I think that's partly testament to the sounds themselves, you know. Something I've noticed is that they're not like rinsed in effects and stuff. That a lot of the time when you open a preset, there's just so much effects and stuff that the raw sound often ends up just being like a saw wave or something like that. And here, I think the focus is on the actual raw tones, which is pretty interesting. So the way you use them and the effects and stuff that you put on and the modulation and stuff is very much up to you. So I think that's a pretty cool way of approaching sound design. You know, you leave it up to the user to play the sounds. You know, there's not much kind of sequence happening in the, not much like sequence modulation happening. The cool thing is that a lot of the time they've got the source thing, which ends up adding a lot of that kind of stuff to the sound. So yeah, let's see. I think here I said I need a new main lead. I wanted to create like a leady type thing with a melody. Yes, this part here. not exactly what I was going for, but I think this could work so well in like the part just before this. Only one instance of wider. Yeah, man, what do you want to do? Like 1,000% wideness? Is that even possible? Your workflow is get a nice kick and bass and then fiddle. Exactly. Okay, just rendering this out. Portal is almost fully opened. Exactly. We just need 1,000 more widers so that we can get it to 2,000,000% wideness. Bruv, 2,000,000% wideness. The people on Mars will hear it. The rings of Saturn. that cowbelly enough? I'm just going to pick some of the MIDIs that I've got already at random and drop them on there, and then we can just cycle through the presets. I think that's probably going to be a little bit more fruitful than just kind of going blind through this and smashing keys while you guys watch me. I think I need to go get a refill of water real quick, and I should probably take a bathroom break as well while I'm at it. Combine the bells with the uncle thing. That would sound nice, I bet. I like both those sounds, but I feel like I'm looking for something a little bit more driving, a little bit more kind of like acidy. So I mean, we could just create something using a basic shape saw wave and some distortion. We don't necessarily have to use something from the pack, but we shall see how it goes. What I will do is let's just loop what I've got so far, and then I will be back. I should mute this though, so I don't kill you guys with a random sound. Wilbert van Loaf, how was your glass of milk? No, I'm just drinking water. Just water today. I think here we could do like slightly less of a complex kind of melody, maybe more rhythmic thing with a couple of different notes. Layering kick and bass. No, I usually don't. I find it's just much easier to get the sound you want without that. No, I didn't have glide. I added the glide onto the preset. Came without glide. Whoa, Wilbert, are you saying Skyrim is bullshit? Watch out, buddy. That was like one of my favorite games ever. Love that game. Anything by Bethesda, the Morrowind series. Played the heck out of those games. Is that like 1/32's then? Is that too garbly? Like, does that break the kind of clarity of the sequence? Does that make sense? What do you guys think? Uncle Bud. I played Morrowind for so many hours, as well as Oblivion and Skyrim. I think I played Morrowind and Oblivion a little bit more than Skyrim, just because that was more my era. I probably played more than 1,000 hours of Morrowind. Which preset was this again? And you added the glide portamento yourself. Yes, this is Tremendous Delirium, and I added the glide and legato setting. Some more variation in the second half. Yeah. I was also thinking something like that. Hey, what's up, Mute Productions, the man of the hour, Oblivion Master Race. Totally, man. If you can't steal the cheese from a bucket without the guards noticing, then don't talk to me. Hope you're enjoying the pack. Yes, I am indeed enjoying the pack. Everything is instant justice. I barely even looked at like the atmospheres and that kind of stuff. I was kind of just looking for leads at this point. What pack is that preset from? It's from the Mute Productions Vital. Let me get the full name for you so I don't mess this up. The Mute Productions Vital Sightrance Volume 1. That's the one. And the preset is Lead Tremendous Delirium. With a little bit of, I added a bit of glide and some legato over there, and then changed the voices down to 1. Yeah, I'm digging this. It was kind of, I'm looking more for like an acidy sound, but still, like, this is perfect for the track. Maybe we can just program a quick, simple, like, saw wave thing with some heavy distortion and stuff. So we can use this as like a complement to that sound to kind of add like a gritty layer to it. Let's just maybe add another vital instance. I wonder if this MIDI will work with like a kind of acidy sound. It's got some glides and stuff, so should do. I think that could do with some heavy distortion. I think the whoop 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 is a little bit like, sounds like a clown slipping on a banana or something. That clown remark makes me think of Ranurudo. Are you familiar with that one? I am not. What is that one? What are the benefits to Julian for president? What are the benefits to there's one who subscribes to your Patreon has? Are they more sound design tutorials or any presets and stuff like that? So there's a couple of things. So you get like discounts on like my preset packs that I offer on my Shopify, but then you also get like all the actual presets that I make in the videos. I have like once or twice posted a video there that's not available on my actual YouTube, but the only reason like I don't make it available is because it's kind of like, I think, more simple stuff that's targeted towards specific queries on my Patreon, if that makes sense. But also, I should probably say something about it here because there's people listening, I guess. I am working on a kind of like masterclass type of thing, which is like several hours of just like working on a specific track from start to finish, like everything. I know a lot of people have been asking for that kind of thing because a lot of my videos kind of chop and change, so it's hard to follow along with a specific track. So I'm working on a kind of like masterclass type of thing, and I think that'll be, I haven't quite worked out the logistics of it, but I'm going to somehow heavily discount that on for my Patreons. So it'll just be like, I don't know, I haven't thought about the logistics, like I said, but all sorts of perks like that, I guess. Roman Scoro something or other. Any kilohertz plugins used in this song? Yes, quite a lot. The most like glaringly obvious that I can think of now is this. There's like a kind of transition that I had made with the frequency shifter, It's actually I actually did it in the previous in my previous stream, or the one before that. So you can go check that out, like as to exactly how I did it. But where is this thing now? Yeah, it's this one. Okay, let's talk about hardware for a bit. I see there's a lot of questions coming through. So, my computer is an i7 3770 plus, so third gen, very, very old. So, I believe that like the generation does matter a lot, but there is also certain models in those generations that are better than the rest that will probably last a bit longer. So I guess it depends. It always depends on your budget. You know, work within your means. If you can only afford a single a single core CPU, then do so, but work around that. You know, don't use acoustic or audio plugins. Don't max out your unison every time you open a preset or something like that. So yeah, there certainly are like workarounds and that kind of thing. I think nowadays, this is obviously depending on compatibility and stuff, But in terms of bang for buck, this comes with a very big disclaimer. In terms of bang for buck, I do believe AMD Ryzen's are better, like specs for on paper for the money that you pay. But that being said, I've had reliability issues with AMD. I also know that certain hardware might not work, specifically if it's like FireWire and stuff, and my sound card is FireWire. So I guess it depends on what exactly you need. Try avoid getting a laptop for production. I know that laptops generally have all sorts of other bloatware and stuff that will affect your performance. So definitely go for a desktop PC. I personally recommend the Intel stuff, an i7 if possible. But often that's not what's affecting your performance. I believe there's so many other factors. I see a question came through. I'm not sure if where's this question now about a sound card. I'm not sure if the person who was asking about performance in terms of hardware specs actually has a sound card or not, but I do believe that will improve your performance. Maybe not in terms of hardware, but definitely like the drivers. So some VST plugins not working with AMD. Yeah. I think in terms... So, correct me if I'm wrong, computer people. I don't know all of it, but I believe there's certain things that Intel does that are kind of like proprietary to Intel hardware, like FireWire stuff. And for that to work on an AMD system, they have to kind of like create like a plugin wrapper that like loads like a plugin almost. That plugin is now like the FireWire driver. So the AMD system doesn't actually have native like compatibility with these things. And then, every time there's a Windows update, it balks something. Every time your hardware needs to update a driver, it's balked. So in a situation like myself where I've got a lot of different random hardware that I never know when I want to use it, I just want to, compatibility can be a huge issue. But then again, sound card should improve your performance depending on obviously what your drivers, most importantly. So if you are having like stuttering and stuff and you don't have a audio interface, then check out a thing called ASIO for All. I remember in the early days before I had an audio interface, I had severe problems like with my computer. I had a really, really terrible setup, and ASIO for All did a lot. Like it seriously, it actually made it possible for me to produce on such an old system with no audio interface and stuff like that. And then also, if you're on a Windows system, there's a couple of tweaks that you can do to improve performance. Stuff like for example, there's a couple of like threads and stuff online where you can go through like how to like tweak your Windows system to performance. But I generally recommend stuff like I probably shouldn't recommend it because it could be dangerous or whatever, but turning off auto updates and all these kinds of things, which tend to be like unnecessary unless you actually need them. ASIO for All is good. So I hope that answered all those questions. If there's any more like hardware related stuff, just at me. I actually need to take a quick bathroom break. So I'm going to play part of what we have here and make a run for it, and then I'll see you guys shortly. Yeah, I didn't really want to start the whole AMD Intel thing, the age-old debate. Yeah, I do believe AMD is perfect if it works for you. But for somebody like myself, I do reviews on plugins. Like if I'm reviewing a plugin and it doesn't work, like how does, you know what I mean? So I just have to make sure like compatibility is a thing for me personally. But yeah, in terms of bang for buck, the Ryzen stuff is much, much better for the price. Clicks and pops. That's most likely like a buffer size thing as well. So let me explain buffer size for people who might not understand it. So how audio works is it basically takes little chunks of data, and the audio driver is what converts those chunks into what we see in our DAW or vice versa. And the size of those chunks is basically like your buffer size. So the buffer size determines the size of the chunks. The smaller the buffer size is, the smaller the chunks are, the less latency you have when you're recording instruments straight through, or when you like press the key and it comes out of the synth. Very minute differences in latency though, like I must say. It's only really audible if you're like recording drums in and you're listening to it through like a compressor in your DAW. So the buffer size, the smaller it is, the less latency you have, but it completely beasts your CPU. So for me, I have an i7. It's a pretty old one, but generally speaking, like my settings, like my buffer size is always on max. Unless I specifically want to record something in at like zero latency with effects and stuff, then I can turn it down. But for a project like this, which has like multiple instruments, like VSTs, I'm like busy streaming at the same time, you know, I'm really like overdoing it on my computer. Like day to day, I leave it at maximum buffer size because, you know, most of the time, you know, when I hit the key, and I can't really tell that kind of difference in milliseconds, you know. So if you're getting clicks and pops, first thing to check is open up your audio driver panel and just max out that buffer size. 99% of the time for electronic music producers, that buffer size won't make a difference. The latency that you're affecting, it's not around. I'm kind of going everywhere here. So if you're recording a guitar into the computer, that latency is affected on the way in and on the way out. So let's say, for example, 2048 buffer size is what I was set to. I'm just going to pull a number out of my head. Say, for example, that's 50 milliseconds. So we hear that delay of 50 milliseconds doubled because it's going in and going out, if that makes sense. However, if we're synthesizing something, we're only hearing that outward latency. So it's like halved, and the ear can only really start to hear differences of like 35 milliseconds and around there. Why does my sound become really crunchy if I go over 512 milliseconds buffer size? I have an i9 MacBook. Yesterday I stacked 100 OTTs in one channel and my CPU hated it, but I got some good glitches and artifacts. I guess it depends on, you know, sometimes with audio interfaces that have multiple inputs and multiple outputs, then they can affect the buffer size that you can achieve with certain, with your system. So, for example, my audio interface, it's the Sapphire Pro 24. So that's like 16 inputs and 8 outputs or something like that. 24 in total. So the computer has to read all 24 of those channels for each buffer. Like for each chunk of data it's reading, you times that by 24. So the CPU is, for each extra channel in your sound card, your CPU is using double that amount of data. So I remember when I had like a very simple 2-in 2-out audio interface, I could run my projects at a very low buffer size. But now with a bigger one, I start to get those like issues a little bit earlier on in the projects. But you know, like I said, you know, just max it out. I haven't really seen a problem. I can generally have like 10, 20 instances of like Vital and Faceplant without having any issues. And that's, I think, plenty for most day-to-day tasks. The other thing I'm seeing here is that it's a MacBook. You could possibly have some... there's like power saving settings, I believe, which can affect the CPU usage. So were you actually plugged in via power, or were you on the battery? Because I know that that can change how laptops function. Correct me if I'm wrong, computer guys. Anyway, so where were we? See, somebody's saying you need buy RME sound card. No, you don't. I personally don't feel that the audio output that you're hearing makes that much difference to the sound of your project. Obviously, unless you're recording and stuff like that. Obviously, the preamps in an RME are going to sound much better if you're recording like vocals and guitars and, you know, synths and that kind of thing. But I don't feel like spending that much on a sound card warrants the huge difference that it makes in this day and age. I personally feel like that money could be better spent on monitors and a computer. That being said, you know, if I can afford it in the future, I probably will end up buying an RME just because. But it's not an essential. You know, I see a lot of guys saying, oh, you have to have UAD, you have to have RME. But no, that's not the case. Just a good brand of sound card. It doesn't have to be the best. But yeah, as long as it performs, then yeah, it should be pretty transparent. Joey DeCasio is asking, could you show us how to resample real quick? I always get confused on the routing part. Also, what are you using for streaming? I am using OBS, and yeah, just OBS, and that's running straight into the YouTube platform. One thing that's a little bit different about my setup is I actually do have two sound cards. One that is a Native Instruments Tractor Audio 6, and that's just got like one of my outputs from my Focusrite, or two, a stereo output from my Focusrite, going into that tractor, because for video, it's a sample rate thing. I don't want to get too in depth with that, but like, so OBS is basically controlling the Tractor Audio 6, and it's sending, and Cubase is sending audio out of the Focusrite. So there's a kind of like analog output happening there, if that makes sense. Nicola is saying, I went from a $200 NI to a $1,400 Apollo Twin, and I don't hear any difference. I think, you know, in terms of the outputs, I don't think you're going to hear any difference unless you've got absolutely golden ears. You know, I mean, the sound cards nowadays are giving 20/20, you know, from 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz. And if they're not, then they wouldn't be a very successful product. People wouldn't be buying it, you know. I think a lot of the time with these really expensive things is you're paying for like after sales service and stuff like that. So in a professional situation, you know, if I owned a professional recording studio and I had clients coming in on a daily basis, I'd want a more expensive product that comes with a kind of more reliable after sales service, because, you know, if the thing dies, I can just phone them up and be like, listen, can you sort this? And most of the big name companies will do that. Maybe not in South Africa, but it's that kind of reliability factor that a lot of the more professional guys pay for. But you can still get just as good a sound on a budget, I believe. One guy was saying he wasn't able to get below 256 buffer without pops on his Ryzen, upgraded his RAM, and is doing 64 or something like that. I guess it also depends on your project, hey? If you open up Faceplant, add a couple of oscillators and filters and some distortions in there, and then you max out that global unison, it like duplicates that patch like 16 times. So you have, and then if you trigger like 30 keys, you've basically got like hundreds of instances of the plugin, and that can easily destroy a CPU. So it very much depends on the project as well, I think. I don't know how sure I am about this kind of like acidy sound that we made. Let's maybe see if we can put in Psy-in is usually a good one. Let's see how this progression works here. I want to turn off the internal sequence and just use like the MIDI in the project that we've got. I'm going to want to detune that as well, -5. That delay is like way too wet. Hey, I got a subscriber. Thank you so much. I didn't catch that name, but if you're watching this. This delay sounds like too wet. It could be because there's like a lot of low end coming through. I find that often happens, like, especially when there's like a lot of distortion. It creates these kind of like lower harmonics. And then when that echoes out, it gets like really too much. But I think here what we could do is how you feel without festival. Let's not go there, man. It's been about a year since the last, like the last cancelled festival that I was going to play at. So I've been thinking about it recently. Oof, whole year, man. I think there should be like a slight break in the grid over here. So it like, and then the acid lead maybe starts, and then like in a break, and then it kind of like drops in. I think that could be super powerful. Where are we? Okay, we're here. I want to move all of these along, except not these two. Those kind of like echo into the break. We can do a thing like this maybe. I forgot to move the automations for those like kick and bass things when I shifted that thing off the grid. Oopsie. Which compressor do you work with in mixing, and do you create bus channels? Yeah. So I usually create groups. So here there'll be like kick and bass and that kind of thing. I guess which compressor I use depends on the moment, like when I need it and what I need it for. So generally, like for the more clean kind of like compression stuff, I just default to like the Cubase compressor, just because the way it works is super easy. But for kind of more creative stuff, like if I'm looking for particular sounds of compression, then the acoustic or audio stuff is really, really good. The flux stuff is also really, really good. But yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, just use the DAW compressor until you can actually hear the difference between them, and then start like choosing what you think works for different tasks and stuff like that. I think it's one of those things which like a lot of people recommend compression for certain things and all that, but at the end of the day, 9 times out of 10 the compressor can like do more damage, depending on like the sound source, you know. So it's a tricky thing, compression. Mike Jones, the screens need to be flipped. Head bopping in the big screen, details in the small screen. There's 20k viewers on Twitch easily. Yeah, just rendering this out, and we can see what happens. But okay, wait, let's see. I'm gonna read this in order. IG Jazz, love that long delay. Yeah, me too. I love it, man. It's super cool. Color copy kind of has something about the tails. It just does nice things to the tails. Cool atmospheric things. Dan Dawson, do you ever drink beer when you write your tracks? Hell no, son. Only when I like perform, I drink a little bit. But actually nowadays, I'm trying to like cut out alcohol as much as possible. Of course, like, you know, just special occasions and stuff like that. But yeah, as I get older, stuff destroys me. But yeah, I find like it kind of like dulls the creative part of my brain. Maybe it's just me. But I can see how it kind of works for some people, because it kind of loosens things so they can like make decisions that they might not normally make. For people that might be a little bit uptight and stuff like that, maybe having a beer would help. But like I often have a lot of ideas when I jump into the stuff, so I kind of don't struggle with that quit smoking. Hells no, son. Is it possible to make that phosphoric acid sound with serum and or vital? Yes, but no. Like, you can, but I find it never really sounds as good. There's something just about Psy-in, which just like default patch. That's the one. Is the acid lead a MIDI pattern? Yeah, it was. I actually just rendered it right now. There is the MIDI. If you want to pause or screenshot that, you're welcome to copy. Yeah, you can make an acid sound with pretty much anything. I guess the idea is like a little bit of envelope on the resonance to give it a bit of bite, and distortion and that kind of thing. But also, serum is a bit different because there's no actual diode filter type. You have to do it with the distortion. There's like a diode filter mode in the distortion. So if you use that and the filter that's in the distortion, you can kind of fake a bit of a diode filter sound. But I feel like Faceplant has got the ladder filter, which you can set to diode mode, which sounds a little bit closer. And Vital as well also has diode filter, which sounds a bit closer. So those are a little bit easier to just get it straight out of the bat. But yeah, nothing is as easy as Psy-in, to be honest with you, hey? Nicholas asking, can you indicate a good oscilloscope to see the image of the sound in Ableton? Have you got LFO tool? Because you could do it very easily with that. Let me show you quickly. So otherwise, there's a couple of free options, as well as one that I recommend called Oscillos Megascope with a Z. OSZ. Don't ask me where that name came from anyway. So here, if you just like turn off all the parameters, so now LFO tool is not actually doing anything to the sound, you can actually set this button over here, and what this does is it actually shows you a visualization of the waveform. So you can actually just turn all those nodes down to free up the space visually. That it's a very handy tool. Especially if you've got like it already loaded on a bass channel and stuff. That being said, Oscillos Megascope is the one, definitely the one to go for. Yeah, Psyscope is also good and it's free. There's also Oculoscope by Bombshanker Machines. But check this out. So I've got this loaded on a bunch of different channels. So you can do this like multiple layers. So you can visualize a lot of stuff at the same time, like kick and bass. But then not only can you do that, you can like freeze it and combine them, so it's like all one. So you can very, very easily see like when stuff is out of phase or something like that. And then it's also got stuff like you can actually see, for example, if you choose this zero crossing to this one, it shows you like the pitch of the sound. So very handy little things that this has built in. It's definitely the most professional, but it's not cheap. But yeah, for this kind of thing, I mean, you're going to need one at some point, so go for that. Hey, what? He like tripled the price? What, on the Ocelos Megascope? I believe that was on like some crazy special recently. But I got it a long time ago, so yeah, I've been using that for a while. I think let's check out some of these Atmos patches in this pack, and then I'm probably going to call it a day. Getting hungry AF, and it's almost dinner time, so gotta get my ass in the kitchen and start slaving away. when do Atmos shine the most in terms of arrangement? When do you use them? When don't? I try and not use too much atmospheric stuff in the main parts, like when you want like energy, because atmospheres can often be used as like a contrast. So just after like a very energetic part, if you have like an atmospheric sound, it kind of automatically brings the listener to like a calming spot in the track. So breakdowns, build-ups, intros, first few segments of like tracks and stuff like that. But I guess it depends on the style as well. You know, for like the more foresty, darker stuff, you want atmospheres throughout the track. You know. I think in this part, what could really work is like a rhythmic thing, because it's actually like offbeat there. It like comes in offbeat, and then like I was kind of trying to do this like thing to trick the listener, where it comes offbeat. So like you establish, okay, this is what the beat is, and then it like shifts back on beat, if that makes sense. So check this out. I'm going to render and chop this. I think that could be cool to have like some reversed parts and some like actual unreversed parts. The reason I'm like kind of putting them all onto a single channel is because I think I want to use like a filter to like slowly bring it in over the bar, so that it, like, when it gets introduced, it's not as apparent that it's kind of offbeat, if that makes sense. So it'll like slowly come in. But I think it just needs like one more sound. I think what could be cool is just something a little bit more simple. Let's just maybe initialize, and we can actually create a chord here. Let's do like a plucky chord thing. Turn the resonance down, give it some envelope, blah blah, the usual. Okay, so the difference here is, let's detune it like a chord. So this would be, I think, +7 and 1, 2, 3. Okay, so they're not all going through the filter. There we go. So then the trick here is to kind of like hold shift and detune these in octaves to get like a nice, I think it's inversion of the chord. That sounds good. I think that might be a bit too like dead mousey though. That's it. You've actually told me this before. That was voicing. But yeah, because I changed what was at the bottom. Yeah, it's also. Thank you, Franz. Yeah, you actually explained that to me before. Okay, my computer's taking really long to render now. I think it gets like longer and longer as streams go on. So I actually want to replace where the sound was in that like rhythm, but then maybe put this elsewhere because I feel like it's still kind of missing something. Awesome, that sounded great. I like that. I'm getting hella tired, so I reckon I'm going to call this a day. I'm going to let it loop a few times. Yeah, let me know what you guys think in the chat or in the comments. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Yeah, see you guys next time. Cheers.